Good morning, all. I'd like to call the meeting to order and we'll begin with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Were there any corrections to the minutes from October 24th?
No.
No? Okay, is there a motion to approve those?
I'll make it.
Okay, second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And we will begin with old business. You have before you a letter requesting to reschedule, let's see, the date of this is undated. We have a date this was sent.
You were talking about the 19th, Monday? Or 40th?
No, I'm speaking about this.
No date on the letter.
There's no date on the letter.
We're supposed to have, our next month's meeting is
Great. Okay, so we're going to do it.
sorry. I don't have the date, but Ramon's here, the is online.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so very good.
This did come via email,
Right. Okay.
and the email.
It's all right. So we'll just go ahead and look through it. So as
The
you
21st of November, my apologies.
okay. So essentially, Mr. Greenberg has requested that if he sets the gate further in on his property, and it's a little bit, the map is a little bit lacking in that there is no distances referenced at all on the diagram. But he would like us to reconsider this position further in on the property.
So it's 6 feet, 6 feet away from the last one.
Well, please come up and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ramon, and I'm representing the owner of 629 Precious Lane. You know, my company name is AHRB, Gates and Fence.
So to clarify, you're simply placing the gate 6 feet in off the line? Is that what you're saying?
No, the last time we applied for it, we moved 6 feet more towards the house. In order the cars can make a turn.
Right.
They can go back and make a turn to go out.
Okay.
So there's a whole new driveway here.
I'm sorry.
So this the both driveways already exist.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
They just wanted the
Make sure.
gate. They
Yeah.
started off with the gate much closer to the line.
Got it.
Okay.
That makes sense, more sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
For doing that.
Somebody's raising their hand. I don't know.
Yes.
So I'm a neighbor here too.
Okay. Just a second. You need to come forward to identify yourself. If you would.
I'm Dave McMillan. I live at 615 Hedges Lane. And that's the private drive that goes down to 3 homes. I actually have, I'm the first one on the right. So I am, let's go up here and point where I live.
Okay.
Since there's 3 homes, I live right here. This is my property line.
Oh, so your driveway is the
Right
one halfway up?
Right, so
Okay.
I'm halfway up. I don't have a gate.
Uh-huh.
It is a narrow drive down. We share, it's a common drive. We share it. This is the SAS hours. Their gate is more this way, to be honest. I don't know about that. But this is an issue here for turning around cars because there's tons of deliveries that come to these homes from the nature of businesses, including mine. So what's happening is if they can't turn around, which you've obviously already noted, they'll have to back up the truck or UPS truck and then use my driveway as the turnaround. So that's the concern for me. I'm happy to see that it's in here. I'm not opposed to the gate at all. As a great neighbor, I just want to make sure that that's enough room. I don't understand that, how much property that is or how much it is, but you need to be able to have trucks come in and out and turn around. That's the key. I'm glad you noticed. I read the minutes. Whoever brought that up, I appreciate it. I just don't know what's the distance there? Is that enough for trucks to turn around? That's my question.
It's our question too.
I mean, could one gate, if placed in a approved place, serve all three locations? It's really the angry Amazon guy backing up at 20 miles an hour at this thing in context of what happened last summer.
Construction trucks.
Town line.
Right, and there's landscaping trucks every day going down there.
Yeah.
UPS and everything else. So it is backing up it's a long backup. It's a long way. I have no problem putting the gate in. I just don't know how, it just needs enough to be able to turn around. I actually think the other neighbor's gate, Sassower's gate, whenever that was approved to put in, I don't know when, but that was right.
It was not.
That's-
Being removed. Amazing.
Okay, well, I didn't know that, but that's definitely curtailing trucks being able to turn around.
Do you have a survey, Armand?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a survey you could share with us?
No,
Yeah. Nick, we have one here. I put it up there.
This does not show the new gate location. What we are asking for is very different. What he has said, sorry. It's not something.
I mean, again, I'm not against having a gate at all. I appreciate the privacy. I understand it. What it does do is opens up a lot of traffic to I don't put a gate in there. I would not want to have to be honest. Been here for 30 years. But that does drive all the traffic into my driveway. They can't turn around.
So Mark, there's 88 feet between the lot line and the house, where there's a driveway, and then so you can see in the turn there that leads to the turnaround.
Yeah.
Could you ask the owner if they could move it another, I don't know, 15 feet so that, you know, a 12-foot box truck can properly?
I can ask him, but I think the closer gate is the neighbor.
But that's.
But that's
destroying the
gone,
way.
that'll be removed soon, Nick.
So
Okay, that going to help us a lot.
Yeah.
I think I can tell him if we can wait in order to he move his gate, and then we can see the place again.
And your neighbor would have to follow the same standards that we present to you. So there wouldn't be someone sort of gaining from someone else, which seems to be the situation here.
Yeah.
I think his proposal is fine if the other gate is moved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How much farther do you think it should be, Nick?
You know, just say 15 feet would be enough for the truck to actually fully be out of the way of the other driveway. So I would say 15 feet, 16 feet.
I think, in my opinion, I think, sorry about saying this, but I think the place what the gate we applying now is fine what it is, because if you see the drawings, that's the car. We put the cars, if you see the drawings, is the car.
I have to say that without dimensions, though, we have no tools to determine distance.
It really needs to have measurements from them.
Okay, no
So,
problem, we can work with that. And I think as soon they move a little bit, the neighbor.
But also cars come in different lengths, and this is an arbitrary pictured vehicle. If the box truck making a delivery, it's going to be significantly longer.
Landscaping truck.
Or a landscaping truck with a trailer too, yeah.
There is a way we know how long the neighbor next to it take his gate down?
I'm not sure that we can answer that, John.
I don't have a time frame yet.
Okay.
I will be taking the gate down and applying for a new one.
Okay, very good.
Oh, thank you.
So I would suggest patience. Okay,
And do you want to request 15 feet from the owners?
I think that that's not unreasonable considering some of the vehicles that are coming down there.
We don't know where the new gate of the neighbor is going to be as yet, is that correct?
So,
If the gate's that, if the call box is that far in, they're already halfway turned around anyways.
Right.
So I think it really will help.
yeah, so they moved the gate, I work with the other owners about the space. Okay.
All right.
Mr. Bloomberg is on,
Okay.
is on Zoom.
The other neighbor?
Efren,
No, the owner.
Oh, the owner.
are you with us on?
I'm here.
Yes. Are you able to give us any input on your perspective with this?
Well, I mean, we really wanted to put this gate into more or less to actually for security to prevent like Uber drivers coming in. I didn't realize that it would have an impact on David's property. And obviously we don't want to do that, but I think if Sassower moved his gate in, there would be where we want to position ours, there would be more than enough room for the typical UPS or FedEx truck or landscaping truck to be able to do a 3-point turn into and make it around. I don't really want, to move the gate a lot further in wouldn't make sense for us. And at that point we would just abandon it. But I think it would make sense if he moved his gate, and I did not realize when we started this process that gate was not an approved gate. So
Understood. Very good.
and obviously we want to do everything by the book, and I'm open. I just don't want to move. If I have to move it halfway up the driveway, it makes no sense.
Right. No,
And then
we're-
I think
we're
having a
suggesting
shared gate is
15
probably a bit of a problem anyway.
we're suggesting 15 feet.
Yeah, I don't know what 15 feet. Peter, you're on, is where your design right now is how far back? You're on mute, Peter.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
So what my brother John had on his survey was right to the specs, for the town setbacks. So we moved it another 6 feet on top of that. So, personally, I don't have the exact location or the exact offset, but I thought it was closer to like 10 feet already, which would make it about 16 feet from the property line.
Okay. I think for right now, we're going to adjourn this until we get a specifically measured position. And that will also allow us a little bit of working time to figure out what's going on with the other gate on the opposite neighbors. Okay.
Okay.
But we really, any kind of a plan like this really needs to have measurements on it, and your submission is lacking that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so Peter, you'll take care of that, and
We'll take care of that.
I think it would be helpful to us to know how far in the other gate will be, so that we can,
I understand. Yep.
so that people can make a 3-point turn. Okay.
Right. Yes. Very good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. See you
Thank you.
next month.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next thing on our.
Sections.
While Pat is working on that, I wanted to advise the board that the village office received a request for formal finding of facts on a turn down that we made a decision on regarding 219 Sag Main, which is a very wide road that appears to be a public road, but it's a private driveway. Part of the Farrell that. So Chris is working on that, and it will be part of our next meeting's discussion, just to review the points. Okay. But I needed to let you know that we got that. It was not put on the agenda for your awareness. All set? Okay. So we're looking at 427 Bridge Lane. One moment. And this was a new structure on the property, and it is part of it is for car storage, and part of it is a photo studio. And thank you very much for delineating out the location in your yard here. And just bring us up to speed with any further information that you have.
What we did, the big concern here was the light, especially the light, the size of the openings. And what we did was add this louvers or wood slots to reduce the glass surface. Basically, depending on the angle in which you face the new construction, the reduction goes from 50% to 100% because the slots have a depth. So as you approach the building, the angle doesn't allow to see through. So the worst angle is from the opposite side of the lot, from the opposite angle of the lot. If you're driving towards this new structure, and that angle is 22%. And with 22%, we are reducing the glass surface. This is the worst angle here. This is the worst of all, because this is 22%, and we're reducing 50% the glass exposure.
Okay.
And this is approximately 45%. The only part that was left without those wood slots is the door. It's a glass door. That's the only thing that the rest has been covered.
These slats are stationary,
They're fixed.
they're fixed.
Yeah, they're all fixed.
Any questions from the board?
What does that do to your light in your studio?
It reduces it somehow, but I'm fine with it.
It's a big jump. And thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. We appreciate your concern on that one.
Okay. Any other points? No? Okay. Guys?
I think given the space and the setback was allowed, it's.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion to approve that? Second, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, we'll sign off on that. Pat, do you have a
you.
No, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is, we're following up with the application for 53 Hedges Lane. And Pat, you're back with us. And what have you brought to us this month?
Good afternoon. So as you know, it's a pretty faceted application, the relocation of the garage, the repurposing of the existing building that's there now, or existing home, and the construction of a new two-story dwelling. That new two-story dwelling obviously has been the topic of discussion in the last few hearings. Since our last hearing, we've since pushed the porches on either side of the building, we've slid them rearward or to the south, so that the elevation facing the street has apparently less mass to it. So you don't have the full width of the structure presented at the northernmost elevation. We've also addressed the detailing at the covered porches on each side. Actually, we jumped to, yeah,
And for the cottage.
this is the cottage. I believe it's 1.3. Correct. If you enlarge those, you can see in the rendering on the bottom right of the screen shows the elevation facing the street. We've slid the porches back, which you really can't see in this rendering. You can actually see in the top right rendering there. That is viewed from behind the existing structure, looking towards the elevation facing the street of the cottage, where you can see the porches are now towards the back of the home. We're also proposing fairly large plant material or planting, as shown in the rendering as willows, on either corner of the building to help frame the central part of that facade and also kind of reduce the massing or block some of the massing, if you will, from the street. If you skip to sheet 1.4, there should be additional renderings as viewed from the street. So in rendering number 2, this is as you would view it from Hedges Lane. We've also proposed increased planting behind the primary hedge of the street. So we have a larger hedge behind that first hedge you see there, which is also going to help block the majority of the first floor of the house. It's only going to expose the windows on the second story. With the willow trees framing the elevation on either side, there's really not much of this building that you would hardly see on the street.
Your landscape plan shows topiaries planted at the corners of the building, not willow trees. This plan.
Right.
Use the willow stuff.
Do they call out plant material there?
Yeah, it says they're topiaries according to this schedule, not willow trees. This may be an existing willow tree, but there's nothing.
That's an existing maple.
I'm not showing
They would be further back. Right? It would be
Here.
this one and that one.
Definitely not. She's
Right.
right. She's
Yeah,
right.
that is true.
But
Also, in a site tour, Megan and I went on, we noticed that the, I guess that'd be the north facade of the cottage is basically right where there's 3 old growth trees.
Right.
If you set it back another 5 feet, those old growth trees would further
Those are the maples, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of clustered together. I think we were looking at them that day. We were out
Yeah.
there on the site. I think, does that present an issue with the rear yard setback though? We are right on the setback.
Oh, that lot, the red line there, the setback.
Correct. I mean, we're pinned to the setback on 3 sides as it is. So that's one of our.
By your desire for volume, not for, not the
Right.
setback's fault.
Right.
It's the guy's fault.
Always, landscape wise, were you always planning to put the wall of evergreens,
And this
or was
works.
that just to solve?
The first thing is to.
Shot the street. That was to stop some of the concerns here,
Okay.
yeah.
I actually really love the way the willows are helping
Yeah.
cover up the mass of it, but now I feel like it's becoming like not sagaponic and more a wall hedge, which we don't totally love because it's not as open as
Right.
like I think sagaponic to feel. So even though it's doing a job of hiding, I actually feel like I don't love the whole wall situation. That's just my perspective, but I love the willows.
Well, do we feel that the willows address the concern enough, or do we not need that additional hedge at the street?
Well, what exactly, how high was that to be? I mean, what kind of evergreen? What, is it something that's cut or something that grows 8 feet tall or?
Likely privet to be consistent.
If it's evergreen now?
Yeah, it's not evergreen. We prefer to not have that hedge.
Yeah, I prefer not,
Yeah.
I prefer, Megan.
Rather than redesign the structure entirely, you know, if we're trying to kind of accommodate the concerns with something.
I mean, it does do the job of highlighting
Softer.
the old house, right? And you pay less attention to the new one.
Right.
So it's doing a great job that way, and lets you focus on it.
One thing I'd like to point out as well, we would like to flip elevations between the north and the south. So what's shown here in the rendering, we have a large glass door facing the street on the first floor. We would like to essentially mirror the floor plan, which will have no impact on massing of the building. The rear elevation of the building, or the south facade, would replace that is shown as the north. So we'd actually be going from roughly 19% glazing down to 10%. So that large sliding glass door would be substituted by 4 double hungs, essentially to even the space across that.
Do you have a picture of that?
It's in the elevations.
Can we maybe look at that on the screen?
You go to sheet
It's in this next package.
A 2.2. So that
That's
would
nice.
be
I think that's
elevation
nice.
substituted. I think it's an improvement.
I do too.
And again, it's roughly half the amount of glazing facing the street.
We'll try that.
Just going back to earlier comments, if you move the accessory structure to the west, line it up to the edge of the setback side yard, you probably save those old growth trees. Is that possible?
Move it to the west.
Mhm.
Right. It's the only way it can shift.
I don't think the old trees are on the map yet.
It's certainly gonna pinch the driveway.
Mhm.
It says that these aliens are supposed to be
I mean, what would be, why would you like to see the old, they're not really spectacular trees.
Well, because this rendering shows supposedly existing trees, but it doesn't show all of the existing trees.
The landscape plans, yeah. Well, we're not planning to keep all of those trees, if I remember correctly. That's a consultant landscape architect here. I think if we would save any of them, it would probably be the nearest to the property line. I think there's 1 or 2 small maples that might not be affected by the overcut of excavation. But I think it's, you know, if we have to, I think we'd probably prefer to replace those trees perhaps with a similar caliber than shift the building just to maintain a fairly mundane tree. Like trees. You know, I'd say they're the largest of the cluster is maybe 10 inches, 8 inches.
You know, the business of cutting down and clearing lots, which is so present here, unfortunately clears a lot of microorganisms and series of undergrowth that is been proven to be the substructure of the ecology. And when you see, especially a lot of the more aggressive developers clear entire lots, they're essentially clearing the entire ecology of a site. So if it's possible, I'd like to see you try, but I think we'd like to see a more detailed landscaping existing and proposed drawing. This is really diagrammatic and doesn't show any species or size caliper or anything else.
Okay.
My perspective on the planting is, we've dealt with this before in certain very old houses, and especially there's a couple examples on Hedges Lane, is that we keep an open view to the front of the historic structure. So there was one that needs a little bit more caring attention right now. That was about 12 years ago that we did it. But the idea of you're mentioning the hedge kind of diminishes that perspective.
Actually, if you don't mind pulling up the sheet CS 1.3. Because the hedge is only intended to be to the left of the existing structure. So it's really only trying to shield the proposed dwelling rather than the existing building.
It is very far forward though, and in rendering 1 on CS 1.3, it does cut off half the house.
Yeah.
So if you guys didn't want it there in the first place, and we're feeling like it's maybe not the Sagaponic we know and love, maybe we could
Right. Well, if you look at also on sheet 1.3, actually the prior sheet to this. On the top left, with rendering number 1, the elevation that would actually replace the one shown with the large slider for double hungs, we can also proposing perhaps a English ivy growing up on the side, which will also help soften the structure and perhaps mediate the need for that hedge.
I'm also noticing on the site plan you have.
I don't think I have that in my book. Can you zoom in? Oh. Thank you.
On the site plan, there's a note on the legend, proposed deer fence and wooden split fence. I'm not sure which is which, and do you have any drawings of what that deer fence looks like?
It's not in the package there. We will have to provide it to the board.
Okay. I don't see it.
Where's the difference go?
Look at the first site plan drawing. It's the discriminate between deer fence and wooden split fence. See, but
Where you're putting deer fence on one side of a kitchen garden.
Megan, do you see the red
Yeah, I got it.
lines?
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would work with the driveway there, but
Is that a gate or is that a corrugate of the deer hoof?
Okay, yeah, cattle guard, accessory. I think something along those lines, yeah.
but so are the fences going right through the driveway then?
I believe too that crossing grade.
I think it's just the more bold, the bolder. It's confusing because you have the setback lines.
Right.
Also right.
And the deer fence is 6 feet, yes?
I believe so.
And you have a permit, or you will have a permit for that.
I believe that may have to be a separate application.
Yes, it will be.
Yeah.
But just.
Not necessarily, could be part of this application.
Yeah, but it needs,
But I
doesn't it
wanted
need a
to-
special permit to
Right,
come up with your
this
thing?
is what they're talking about.
It's 6
Yeah.
feet,
I think this year.
And anything
If it's
above
eight,
that,
if it's 8 feet, it has to be.
then I only have to.
Zeros
come.
on the entire-
That's what I.
Front- I thought front fences had to be 4 feet.
Well, 6 feet won't keep out of deer anyway.
John?
No, not a grown deer. I mean, it's not, he's at a farm.
So, I'm gonna be a stick in the mud, but, having reviewed the code and the fact that this house was on the National Register, the old residence, I find the design of the proposed cottage, the new residence, insensitive in mass, somewhat of design to the nature of Sagaponic's historic district. And I'm just throwing that out. I realize you're trying to soften it. I realize you're trying to do what you can to make it appeal to us. But I think personally, to me, it argues too much with the nature of the site. And I'm just throwing that out for the board to either listen or ignore. But to me, it's just a little bit too much.
Can you refer to one of the renderings?
It's more just the sense of the mass. I mean, some of these renderings are softened, granted.
It's CS 1.3 maybe?
No, that one has the hedge in front. Oh, which group are you in? Are you in the second one? Yeah, okay.
I believe it's the page prior to the sheet.
It's existing, right?
Hmm?
Existing, is CS 1.2.
Yeah. Well, these are all the historic structures.
I think it's this page.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I have that. May not have that. Okay.
They're labeled the same.
Yeah, I know, they're all, they're. Unless there's two sets of 1.3, which I think there are. Yeah. I don't know, I've just thrown that out there. Yeah, there's a series of CS 1.3. I get what you're trying to do, but in my mind, it's just a little bit too much. When I read through the code and I relate it back to the historic guidelines, it just argues with the tone of the historic district a little bit too much. Granted, you're trying to soften it, and granted, you've got the plantings there and all of that stuff. I'm just speaking about the nature of the design. And it's difficult for me to say, oh yeah, that fits right in there. But I'm just throwing that out for consideration.
In terms of mass, Tom, you're mentioning the height mostly?
I think it's a little bit too broad. as I searched for 19th century barns, most of them do not have this elevation in the center of it. I found one Dutch design New England barn and about probably 200 other relatively traditional.
reflect this.
Well, it doesn't have that, quite that same pop-up. does it?
It's not unlike this.
Mhm.
No, this is not correct because these are the 4 windows now.
Right. Yeah. At any rate, that's-
I'm not quite sure I understand why a barn of a clerestory design is not a consistent 19th century barn architecture. And it's, it's not the most prevalent archetype in the UN, but I think it's certainly been done after centuries.
I don't see any lighting renderings
Evening renderings or a light study.
either.
The light study should be 1.4, I believe, or 2.4.
for the simple breadth of it, I would,
2.4.
I found it.
67 feet.
Yeah.
67 feet. Let's look at the existing.
Unfortunately, we are standing from the front yard setback to the rear yard setback too. So if we were to make the building more narrow, we're going to need to pick up that loss of space in the front of the rear yard.
How many bedrooms is this now?
I believe it's 4. And the building in its entirety is as of right. Too, so.
I know, but when you buy something in the historic district, it doesn't grant you the right to maximize what you can do with that because it destroys the nature of the historic district. The nature of this particular property is very modest. I understand that, your client wants the bang for the buck and he wants to be able to do whatever he wants to be able to do. And when you buy something into the historic district, there come limitations with that. And those limitations are very, very basically outlined in the documentation from the Department of the Interior. And our code specifically says we're going to operate with that because that's why we became a village, so that we didn't become Southampton. We were just tired of all of that, with everybody maximizing whatever they could do. So when you buy something in the historic district, it doesn't come with an entitlement to size. In the mindset of my training up with this board for 12 years, you kind of gotta, understand the nature of where you're buying and what you're trying to put in. That's how I interpret it. Some of the other board members may understand it differently.
This is likely one of the smaller new residences proposed in the entire community as well. It's obviously a function of lot size.
It's 12 feet. The code is 12 feet under the existing. It seems like there's a number of things we're asking from you. I'm not quite sure how to address Tom's comment, other than the massing. It does seem the cottage accessory structure is 12 to 14 feet longer than the principal structure. it'd be really helpful to have a more prescriptive and accurate landscaping plan, as well as fence and deer fence plan. In terms of the scale, if we could go to the accessory structure. Can you throw on the board the, let's say, yeah, I'm sorry, cottage accessory structure CS3, I think, CS 1.3 of the second group. I think the labeling is confusing as well. They're all labeled CS 1.3. So I would say that that structure is not a large structure in scale, but it certainly is larger than the principal structure that it's meant to be the accessory for. So I understand where Tom is coming from. It's the equal height and 12 feet wider, but it's also maxed out. If you look at the bottom rendering, if you were to make a rectangle around the massing, it's almost completely solid in terms of how much area it takes. Other than that, the windows and doors seem, you know, other than a large barn-like one, to scale. As you said, you reduce the massing of the exposed lights. So I guess just the general mass would be the next thing to question, or maybe just in the geometry of the massing. Basically, is it T design? Perhaps the T portion could be wider. Just throwing things out to try to.
So the T and elevation or
In plan.
plan?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a result of porches, though. The T
Right.
shape, it's-
But it looks like the width is only 16 and 10, but the overall length is 67.
You're referring to the existing structure.
Accessory, yeah.
Right. So what are you proposing to play with the massing? on the back?
I'm not trying to help design the thing. I'm just trying to translate from Tom's comment to try to.
I think you're referring to the existing.
But this is the existing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm comparing the two in terms of the numbers.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, this shows the new cottage, quote unquote, to be twice the size of the original, almost, not quite.
Right. Well, I do want to point out as well that, you know, the existing cottage or building that's there now is quite small. Obviously, it won't satisfy any of the program required by the owner. So knowing that we can build a principal residence of a certain size, you know, which is going to be roughly double what's there now, you know, I think that presented a major challenge in that whatever that's going to be is by default going to be much larger and therefore compete with traditional buildings. And I think as we mentioned in the last hearing, that's where the idea of the concept of barn came from, is that it's, you know, probably one of the few archetypes that would not, or you would see as a building that's going to be much larger, significantly larger than a residence on a property. You know, where it's sort of an outbuilding. Since most outbuildings we think of as sheds and garages, but a barn is generally much larger, has more mass than a principal dwelling.
With the sprawl
So it
out.
felt like it was somewhat, you know, appropriate in that case.
Just the wings on one side turned into a large pyramid, which is so different from sort of the neoclassical elegance of the other structure.
Right.
And being so close.
Mm.
It's a very wide barn.
And again, you know, there's a challenge of getting a second story in that's, you know, not equal to the size and footprint of the first floor, which is going to create a very bulky structure as well. You know, we found we more heavily load the first floor here, which is also a result of the program. If we were to go with a more conventional barn-like massing, we would have to perhaps bring out shed dormers, and that's going to require either a lower pitched roof or enlarge the second floor to get those sheds to sort of pop out through the slope of the roof enough to have addressable windows. And frankly, I don't think we should go any lower than the pitch of the roof as it is. I don't think that's going to look any better.
And now is it pitched like a 410 on the roof or what?
I think it's steeper than that. I believe it's a 6 on the lower and maybe a 7 or 8 on the top.
Okay.
Completely agree with Tom's point. It's all, obviously all our feeling, because we wouldn't be sitting here. Totally in the right to be building is big enough house. It's very respectful. So, stand away, as far as I'm concerned. Because I think you did a good job trying to make it work.
If you were to go for a variance to place a little bit in the back.
Maybe. I don't know. Planning department would allow that, maybe.
Original building?
You did on a few others.
I'm looking at SP 1.0. What I'm asking is, I realize that you have constraints. You're also dealing with what is in my mind as one of the gemstones in the village. And so to reduce the distraction from the significant historic structure, which has the non-national register, etc., to seek a variance so that you can extend this a little bit further in the back and pull down the width, the breadth will widen the visual width in mass to the location. I realize it's another step, but again, I'm saying that house has been here a very, very long time. And it's one of the few things that we still have left that is part of the history. I realize it's a roof, but
I think there's some risk associated with that as well. It's still unknown whether or not we get that variance, not to mention the additional time, certainly
well,
concerned.
we write a letter of support if we can come to that agreement as a board.
Right.
And those have been approved in the past. We have never had one rejected.
And that will, of course, trigger a complete redesign of the plan as well. The entire building. You know, we'd spend many months working with the owner to come up with a design that satisfies and suits the program. I know it's not
It
your.
suits what your client was after. It might not suit the board or what the village's goals are for a historic district.
I'm John Key, just curious, and listening to everything you're saying, and we're really not the designers of the barn. We're working on it along with the design. Is it that you feel it's not appropriate for, I'm listening to what you're saying, you don't feel it's appropriate with the building, the current old house?
Mhm.
Is it the style of the barn? I mean, is it because I look at next door and you've got the mayor's house with a beautiful, huge barn on the property that's probably bigger than the house. And there's many examples of that all over the village, as Pat was saying. If the barn, and going for a variance, as we all know, is just another process and a longer process. If the barn was more in keeping with what you would see more likely in the community with a house like that, a big old barn, is it not the, is it the massing that's bothering you, or is it the style and the massing? Because, you know, if I took the barn next door and put it on this property, you're going to have the same thing. You've got a big barn and a much smaller house. So do you think you'd be have less objections if it was just a different looking barn or more in keeping with the local vernacular of the community?
think in my mind, it's a concept of scale to the historic structure.
Well, you're gonna have scale, I mean, you've got historic structures typically are much smaller. And they're going, but as Pat said, most places have very large barns on the property.
Mhm.
So I think that works together, and there's lots of examples of that. And, you know, I feel like we have a client who is willing to spend a lot of money on fixing a beautiful historic structure.
Mhm.
And there's got to be some benefits of that really look and say, hey, he's doing some good for the community as well, because here he is spending his money there. I think this really doesn't work for him at all. It's you know, ridiculously low ceilings. There's lots of problems. There's going to be a lot of money to get that place back in shape and keep it historical. But he wants to do it. He loves it, and he wants to live there. And so it's good for him, and it's good for the community at large. So how do we work together to get him what he's looking for and give you what you're looking for? And so if it's not hiding this new structure with planting, which helps, I think, to a large degree, or is it redesigning the structure? But I don't think it's fair to say to them, we want you to redesign the structure, make it smaller, go for a variance, and then do everything you have to do to the main house. There's got to be some balance here. And so how do we get from point A to point B so everybody's happy?
For me, it's the massing, and I think Tom's idea of moving it just a little bit off and back and getting a variance with our suggested letter might be the solution we're all looking for, I think.
Is 5 feet really going to make a significant difference?
Is that all we have? Is 5 feet? How much do we have? How much can we get?
Well, I'm just quoting.
Right.
Well, I mean, you have
Even if it's 10 or 20 feet, that's from here to there.
you have 60 feet currently, roughly. So if you did it 20 feet, that would go with it.
I think that it is the massing, but the massing is largely due to the style of it too. I think with that broad sort of more of
Makes it feel
a
better.
Western livestock / equestrian barn, just does sort of throw it out. Even, I mean, this is just one person, but even if it were asymmetrical and the wind was on one side, it would at least have sort of a sense of narrative to it almost.
Right.
But there's one large, say it's belongs to like Two Trees Farms north of the highway. I mean, not a beautiful spot, but
Probably not that big.
yeah. But so, yeah, I mean, I would find it less offensive if it was something that was more directly referenced around the area.
Okay.
Does look like a bunkhouse.
Well, that's why I'm saying that's kind of what I was getting at. So if it's a little bit of design, but maybe the bulk will be kind of worked with, if it was a different style or a different, something that was more in keeping with the community.
Well, we should speak about that. Would a gambrel roof address any concerns?
No.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
I would hate for you to have to redesign. I would hate for you to have to redesign the whole thing, honestly. That's not.
I just don't, I'm trying to come to a solution.
Yeah.
It seems that we're kind of at an impasse because we tried, you know, we're happy to put in heavy plantings and really soften the whole effect of it. Again, we want to get going on restoring the original house, but there's a give and take here. And I appreciate the offer of, you know, of us going to get a variance to go back, but I don't think it's as Pat just said. You know, we've done this in the past, whether it's 5 feet or 10 feet, the impact's not going to change really. It's planting is going to be a much better impact than moving it 5 or 10 feet or 15 feet.
Who are you moving closer to?
There are others.
Yourself, right?
Ourselves, which it's fine with us. We don't mind moving it back. I just don't think you're solving your problem.
I really do moving it back. 20 feet is gonna make a huge difference in the street front impact of what's happening here.
Along with the
Along with
plantings
the
and the.
plantings.
And if the original trees are salvageable, at least it is what was framing the original structure for the past 30 years or so. Obviously, someone else might want to take a look at it too.
When does the board meet that they need the variance for?
It's next week, but they have, it's the second Friday of the month.
Can they make it in time?
It's a month ahead of time and it needs to be
Have to have your
advertised, so.
Be looking at January.
Is anyone from the planning department on the Zoom?
Miss Thayer's usually there.
No,
She's not there.
Lisa's
it would be
Lisa is
CBA.
Oh, yeah. No.
We'd get this board's blessing to go, we would obviously get a recommendation for approval or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And is that, as I think, did I hear you say earlier, that's usually happens then, it doesn't occur now?
Always
It's a
happens.
very,
Always happens.
very high percentage.
They trust us. They've
If we
already
can get
trusted
this-
us for this.
If we can get this board's blessing on what we've got and move it back, whatever the footage we're talking about here, I think the owner would be okay with going for a variance.
It shouldn't be a problem since you're moving it back on yourself.
Well, I'm looking at that, that's the only person it's gonna affect is
I
really
mean,
us.
it's
Yeah.
not going to, you're not gonna have some neighbor making a fuss about the
shape of
zoning
driveway.
change.
What I was not saying too is the architecture itself, style, if we go through that, is what we have now, then going to the past, which approved. Rather than go through that whole act and then come back here and then still have, many months. That's what I'm trying.
Let's just approve the house.
No, I understand, and that's the part of our.
I didn't know if you were doing anything.
No, I just.
Would anybody want to go this way? What's behind this wall? Because then it would give this porch situation, right now that porch looks into a wall for that. Not a lot of space here, in my opinion, for that to be a nice city place. So that could also be, it would hide it more. I don't know, right, it's courtyard situation. Yeah.
It still sounds from what conversations we are having over here, that we would still, we would appreciate setting it back, but also trying to reduce that visual scale. And perhaps narrowing it a little bit and making it deeper.
Unfortunately, that goes back to then redesigning.
No, I understand that, but that's been what's in the back of my mind since we started, because it's just too much of a bulk in my mind.
If you moved it back and over, is there something here that's not on this map? As Megan suggested, if you moved it back and over, then some of that mass would be hidden from the
Over
street.
towards the
Over towards the,
Zach Main.
Listen, he gives those folks on the
yeah,
porch
towards Sagman.
Yeah.
a deeper view, which is nice, because right now they're looking at the wall for that. It impinges on your open courtyard that like both homes kind of see out onto. But it's just another way to kind of tuck it back.
So, I'm sorry, we're tucking it to the
So,
south and
You're
we're tucking
moving
it to
it
the
back,
east.
you're moving it south and west.
Listen, I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but it would kind of go diagonal. So maybe
Yeah,
ending up
that-
here, and I don't
that's gonna
know.
really mess up the driveway, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, the driveway is at least of our worries, I think, from my perspective, but that will reduce the mess. I'm not suggesting it.
Yeah, the visual impact. No, I understand.
Is this driveway on this map an existing or proposed?
Proposed.
So-
Unfortunately, that's a lot of work because it comes in, It was a very difficult driveway to make work with the house because of a lot of existing trees.
Well, you could consider that because that would hide part of this mass from the street. And if you move it back, it's almost like moving it back is more of a problem because the driveway goes according to this right through.
Yes.
But maybe you could consider some adjustment to the driveway in order to do that. If it's possible.
We'd have to study it. See if that can be done.
Yeah, they could come here. Okay, so presently, I think you're hearing that if you proceed, you would receive a no vote on this at this point. So I would like you to explore ideas of trying to reduce the width. And we will explore with the ZBA now. At this point in time, we might even have a conversation about what they would be comfortable with.
Okay.
And moving that through.
If
for
it
you.
were moved back and over, that would address a lot of the problems,
Right,
even in its existing form.
right.
So option A is reducing it, option B is sliding it over, option C is.
Elongating it, right? Narrowing it.
Narrowing it and elongating it and allowing it to go a little bit further into the back, but that would incur adjusting that sway to the driveway that you have here. But I think it's workable.
So what you're proposing then is in fact not setting it back further from the street, just giving us relief in the rear yard so that we can go.
So that you can extend it,
narrow
yeah.
along it.
That's
Right.
another option as well.
Well, redesign. Yeah.
Would that work?
The landscaping.
I think,
Reflecting what's actually.
yeah, I think they'd be better off too. I think,
Right.
once they actually got on the property. and-
That's,
I mean, obviously, the arrow is rough, it's
That's
not,
60
but that's
foot square.
the idea.
And then flipping these, so we're actually looking at what we're looking at.
I think the one actually I sent Tom, it was one similar,
Mhm.
but it was of course a Dutch one that was moved to Tyrone, and they added the wings on.
Just-
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we go back and do some work
Mhm.
before, and that way we can kind of call you and say, okay, we'd like that relief, or we don't need the relief, we've come up with a different solution.
Okay.
So that we at least have you're going to the
Okay,
ZBA,
forward, yeah.
something.
Can I just ask one song? I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm the owner, Jason Ledrick. Pleasure to meet all of you. So I've heard three things for the style, I've heard elongate, and I've heard move. Obviously, all three, well, have different implications. So if we elongate and narrow it, is the style okay?
I
Doesn't
found that
bother
to
me.
be a very awkward looking barn when I think about the local barns.
If it was only extended or the wing was only on one side, would that be better for you, or would that be even quirkier?
I have that at the farm.
You know,
so-
that makes sense. You've had it for 200 years, you add a side.
Right, yeah. It's just, it's a vocabulary that I just don't see here locally. And I'm trying to keep that reference to the historic district.
It's a little bit Yellowstone. If that makes sense. I don't know if you watch Yellowstone. but
I
it's
do.
a little bit Lighthouse.
For what it's worth, I don't think we satisfied the intention, but our intention was to build something that looked very much like Don's Bar next door, which I think is one of the highlights of Sagaponic. We clearly did not succeed in that intention. My direction was build something that looks just like Don's Bar. Hopefully the town would like that.
Yeah.
In addition to restoring the old structure. So it sounds like if it's a little bit more boxy, and not pyramidy and elongated, that might satisfy the committee's concerns.
Good. So we'll get to work on it. And, would it be possible for us to send a sketch when we get to a certain point?
Right.
And even kind of get a, yeah, we're liking that kind of, or we're hating that?
Mhm.
This way we don't have to keep coming here to find out.
Right.
That's smart.
Thank you. That'd be very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn now. Is there a motion? Okay. A second? To adjourn? Second. Okay, Nick, and we make the motion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. You got that signed? Permit?
Just nothing to sign.
No, it's the, I received the one that we passed. You got put it in the file? This permit that we signed and sent.
Yeah, I
back,
got
you
that.
Okay,
Yes.
just didn't want it to get. Okay, next item is a garage and trellis to be added to 181 Parsonage Pond Road. Things seem to be in keeping with that. I just have one question about, is someone here?
Sure, but everybody's done.
No? Okay, no one's here. Do we have somebody online for this application?
I advised him, but I guess nobody is here.
Is anybody online? Steve Lemansky?
And Steve was gonna have
Okay,
somebody else.
let's pass this and we'll move on to the next thing and we'll come back
I
to it.
have something to say about this.
Yes. uh-huh.
The application shows bright white trim. That's not what's on the house, and what's on the house, in my view, is preferable. So they say it's existing, but it's not existing.
Right, understood. I made the same observation, but for now, let's pass this and see if we can get somebody on and we'll pick it up later. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
And if not, then we'll adjourn it at the end of the meeting. Let's move on to 542 South Main Street, General Store Park. What's that, Jimmy?
I was saying the dormers, lots of storage on the second floor.
Hi, thank you. Anthony Pasca, the attorney for the project, and a whole team here, including the architect Frank Greenwald. Just to kind of remind you where we were and where we've come, you guys were generous enough to give us a work session several months ago to look at our original plans. And the big comment that you had back then was to take a look at the second floor. I don't know if you remember it, but at the time, the second floor was being proposed as a conditioned storage space. The intent was to use it to house some artifacts. But you did comment on that, and Mr. Chairman, you had pointed out that the south stairs, which we didn't really like either, but that was the only way to access the second floor. So the big change between the plans is that we have we're told that there's going to be another place for the artifacts, so we eliminated the entire second floor expansion. It's just gone. Whatever's in the attic in the front is going to be unfinished mechanical space, and that's it. The back is now a much smaller pitched roof that's going to be open to the below. And the only other change that you might notice here is that one of the members had asked for the door, the front door to be added back to the plans to access the post office from the front. That was put back into these plans, and otherwise they're the same. We have since gone through
The
zoning.
center door is wider than it is now, is that correct? It's not a double door
No.
presently.
Yeah, and originally it was gonna be, that was gonna be the only
Right,
access in, and then the post office would be accessible on the inside.
Mhm.
We went through the zoning board approved variance, we went through the trustees who approved the site plan early this month, and so we're now back. And we're here to answer questions. Mr. Greenwald is not prepared a presentation, but he's here. If you have questions about the details, we're all here to answer them.
I'm just looking at the first large page, and we have a illuminated rendering there with nighttime illuminations and this roof of the porch. The existing windows are not formed with a horizontal divider, is that correct?
The existing window, you mean the big window?
The big windows.
Big windows
yeah.
are open.
Those are open with center
We
dividers,
did
right?
go through some historic photos.
Mhm.
And it's changed over the years. You know, it's like they were sometimes divided windows, sometimes not divided windows. You know, you can say that about the whole building, it
Some
has
of those are
changed.
in very rough shape right now. too, I
Yeah.
guess.
So that is, this is what we're proposing for now. It's certainly a detail that we'll open the discussion on.
The existing post office sign that is over the door, entry door, was actually painted by a relative of the Hilton family, and I was just curious if that is going to be modified.
It's right here.
Is there a plan to modify that, or would it remain?
We'd actually like to preserve that.
Okay, great. I spent several days trafficking that back up and down, driving around with the sign and the designs and.
For integrity, we should probably ask if you'd be available again. So one way to do this. It's amazing, it's drove from stuff up to the barn, it's the same kind of thing, you know, it's the original signage, it's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Very
it's
smart.
amazing.
And actually a lot of mysteries along the way.
I got a piece of wood from Tom Matthews in Southampton, a specific type of thickness and grain and so forth.
And do cattle trail project stuff. Very cool.
You're still not planning on having seating in the back?
No.
I'm back to these big doors going out the back, if there's not gonna be anything out there.
It's just to be terrific view and bring a lot of light in the back of the.
Okay, just checking.
Right now,
Our discussion with the zoning board and the planning board trustees was just someday we may do it on a trial basis and see how that goes. But we don't want to complicate
Don't
this
wanna start.
process by introducing something like that.
Yeah, I was at the zoning meeting, so I remember that.
I think it's wonderful.
I think it's fine.
I'm just wondering about the door to the post office. I kind of liked it when it was just one door because it felt very balanced. But I-
We actually preferred that too,
Right,
but
well, what about putting a door over here instead of? That would be balanced.
Confusing.
Is it an ADA issue for,
I'm sorry?
is it an ADA issue for the double door or?
The ADA issue was to be able to have the circulation go from the ramp that's on the
Oh,
north
okay.
side in through the building to get access to the store.
Okay,
So that's why we had the interior space accessible as between the post office and the store, the front portion. And so it made that extra door to the post office unnecessary. And so that's why we had originally not shown it that way. One of the board members asked us to show it, so we've shown it. Our preference would have been to just keep the main double doors in the front and not have a second. It also affected the interior circulation a little bit from the post office. That was gonna be usable space, and now with the extra door there, it's no longer usable space, so our preference would be to eliminate it, but we're trying to accommodate.
And can you talk about the positioning of the blue mailbox choice? It's now on the right.
Hi, Frank Greenwald, architect. And we haven't sort of really gone through this with the post office yet, but there's a requirement that there be a mailbox outside the post office. So I mean, we're open to.
Which I love. I'm just wondering about why you chose there.
There's not a lot of spots left on the property to put it, but we're open to suggestions. The only thing I would add about the entrance doors is that originally, if you go into the space, you can look at the existing framing. Originally, that's what was there, a pair of doors with a transom over the top, and you can see the original framing is still there, which is why we sort of like the idea of bringing it back. I agree, the post office door is not a great asset to the design.
Listen, in the middle of the summer, when you just gotta go to the post office and you don't want to deal. People inside the store getting their copies. I get it.
No, but you can go through the side, you know, where the ramp is, goes right into the post
That's
office. Yeah.
What about, it's probably a stupid idea. Well, if you put the same doors as going into the post office on the store side and put a window in the center instead of the big double doors, just so that the symmetry that you had before would be restored.
You mean move the entrance into the store to the left,
Correct.
that
And
side.
then this would leave this wall blank, I guess, here, where the door currently is, but you could put a window there that, you know, mirrors some of these other windows maybe.
Yeah.
Was it, I mean, it's just a thought, because you lost the symmetry of the entrance by putting in the post office door.
Yeah.
But then eventually the center would be a stack of Hamptons magazines. I'm sure.
Yeah, right. Covered with purist and.
Exactly, yeah. Not the classy ones like.
You know, the whole building is sort of has a haphazardness to it.
That's true.
So, I mean, I'm not sort of hung up on being symmetrical. You know, there's a whole sort of evolution of what was added to it, and even, so with the new design, we tried to make it sort of break up the mass of it, so it looks like pieces were added on with the years,
It's
etc.
been a long time since the postmaster and the store owner were the same person.
Yeah.
But it was at one time.
Was it the case?
But the intention also
Pre-done,
of the
pre-done
interior
already.
is that those spaces are connected, so that the store and the post office are connected internally.
There's gainful employment.
I think that's helpful.
Yes.
Oh.
Is it very open in between the two when you're
No.
inside?
No, there's an opening with a roll down screen, because it has to be separate or separatable.
The post office requires that.
Yeah, they're required, I'm secure.
Would be, yeah.
Just I know you're really down in the last moment and push it out, but it really looks good, but what if the entire building we moved to further back into its lot, allowing for more public space?
You
It's,
put it a bit already, right?
Yeah.
so that it,
There's some room.
the lot is small, it's 7,000 square feet. And so
Double.
it narrows as you go back.
But
In order to maintain a 10-foot, we need an access, a 10-foot access between the southernmost point of the building and the southern lot line, in order to be able to have a legal access to the back for deliveries and emergency. We're not having parking back there. But as you shift, we shifted the building back as far as it could go without.
It's sort of, it's not parallel.
They're not parallel, yeah, the lot lines are not parallel.
And we have a 0 setback on the north side, literally a 0 setback, and a 10-foot. So it's at the pinch point where it couldn't go back another inch without it going below
dimension of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's already, you set it back how much already from its original?
15 feet?
I think it's about 15 feet.
Do you have a thought on seating outside or none?
No, not at this time. We don't want to introduce that.
Well, the benches that are currently there, like, say, or not, well, that's a detail.
Yeah, that's
And
out.
that's
in
not
public,
actually even
and
on
that's
the
not even on your
property.
property.
Right.
Yes, that's on the street. Yeah.
And with the setback, will there be parking right in front, or will there be bollards or something to keep?
It would be the same. I mean, we haven't touched anything on the public property.
Yeah, not up to the building itself, just the sidewalk. So there'll actually be like 6 more feet of space that's essentially to be added to the public.
Oh, great.
Pedestrian. And that was the whole goal of going back a little bit, was to lessen the conflict.
Take the pressure off those 2 benches in the summer.
Yeah, and the parking is so close to the building.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Is the sign gold and paint?
I wonder if that's like an easy.
Probably no.
It looks like gold. I'm just asking.
Yeah, probably not, no. I mean, we're sort of not.
What's that? the
I would
lettering
just,
of the sign?
yeah. I have no judgment, just asking.
Yep. And is that to be a fairly white, bright?
Well, the answer is no.
Okay.
Because I know you guys don't like bright white. There's and actually the signage we haven't really sort of gotten into, to be very honest.
And the trim on the house is on the.
There's some color specified, sort of a warm white for the outside with a light gray for the majority of the trim, and then a dark gray for the front door. There's a color, and it probably didn't come out very well.
Okay. Is there a flag now?
Yes.
There has to be a flag in front of the post office, and there is one.
Where is it now? Is it on the
It's
post?
right on the end of the frame. Been there a long time.
Can it go
Yeah.
here?
Huh?
Feels kind of random there.
Well,
Can it be united more maybe? Well,
I think,
is there a better place than
That's
just
where
to
it
like?
is now.
I think that's where it is
That's where
now.
it is now.
I know, but that doesn't mean it isn't random now.
Well, did you want to angle one that sticks out of the
Maybe
wall?
it's In a bad way. There's historic in a good way, and there's historic in a bad way.
I don't know. I
Do you
think
have
it'll
any
be
thoughts
all
on
right.
where you might prefer the flag, or you just like the flag there, or you're doing it to keep it the way it
Well,
was?
it has to be, I mean, the post office requirement says it has to be in front of the post office. I don't honestly know if it can be on the building or if it has to be freestanding. I don't recall that.
Most of them are freestanding.
Yeah, and the ones I've seen are always freestanding, but I don't know that that's.
Okay, just curious, what, you feel plunked down to you?
Yeah.
The flag,
Yeah.
it also looks, the way
Yeah,
it
it
was
looks- it
rendered,
looks small on the
it looks
rendering,
like
yeah.
it's this big, but
Yeah.
it's a true flag. So it might look a little out of place.
Have to be twice as high if it was.
It would be off of pic, it could be off the
Yeah, yeah.
picture if it was.
And the post office going to Hedges and Fairfield, is that right? That's the
Yeah.
last rumor I heard.
The temporary, yes.
The front porch ornamentation, from this depiction here, it looks like there are small.
Those actually were sort of copied or hopefully reused from the existing building.
Okay.
They're on the existing front facade of the building.
Okay, I just was curious and they're sort of carried through on some of the renderings, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
I think if you look at the existing elevations, you'll see them. I don't know if we have existing. plans. If you look at the existing elevation, they're on the front.
Would you want to connect those to the rear a little bit? It's like it's just in the front porch, and not in the.
To the rear of the building?
Yeah, just so if we're looking at the main rendering there, it seems like those details are applied to the front porch, but not to the eaves of the first story structures.
Did you carry those over to the post office entrance or something?
I
The
think
ramp?
so.
I think the intention would be that all the pieces in the back of the building would look different than the pieces than the front part of the building, so that they look intentionally added on at a different time. But you're talking about adding them to the rear of the front building,
Yeah,
the rear eaves of the front building.
just thinking if that becomes the main.
Yeah, they're not there now, but my guess is they were, they didn't want to decorate the back of the building, but they only exist on the front.
And the lighting of the store sign or the post office sign, that can be as subtle as possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's some nighttime.
Yeah,
illuminations.
there are.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure what the application there is. It might be like a LED strip or something like that.
Yeah, I actually don't even know that we need to light the post office sign. At the moment, we don't have anything planned for that.
Okay.
I think the front sign could probably have a little LED strip, maybe.
Yeah, something dimmable, so
Yeah,
it's not too much. Okay, other than those observations, I think we're good.
Yeah.
When is there a conceivable proposed time this might be finished? I don't think next spring is very realistic.
Well,
we're trying, but.
I
we
know,
get
I
it.
understand.
The answer is as soon as
As you can.
humanly possible. I mean, really, that's it. So,
Everybody wants it.
and, even if there was a detail or two that you wanted us to look at, we would want to get started on the building and come back to you even midstream, because getting
the last
getting
one.
the building lifted and moved back and the foundation done.
Yeah, it's a
The
lot.
whole process is, so we will have time to
Yeah, I
come
mean, if we
back
don't
to
look
you
at
with
signage,
what
we're gonna look at colors. we're gonna
That's all place.
look
You guys
Light
you guys have done a
bulbs.
brilliant
Exactly.
job. I would just
Exactly.
maybe try and integrate. That's all. I let it go. You did a wonderful job.
Okay, very good. Is there something to sign off on this at present or no?
Tom,
There is, it's an application.
are you approving the building and signage, or just the building at the moment? They have to come back to you with signage and lighting?
What are you advising?
To approve the building, but make them come back with lighting plan and signage.
Okay, all right. Yeah, is that agreeable?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
all right.
That'd
So
be great.
just
That
the
will
building.
slow us down, so that's all, that's our main goal was to,
Very good.
Sorry.
yeah.
Just pressure with so much on you.
We can do your motion.
Yes, is there a motion to approve the building? Design? Second?
Pending the lighting and signage. Blah, blah.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
That
much.
last, no?
Thank you.
I think I missed PTSD when some people see this structure 20 years later. So it's not even a vacation for that. You see some of the pictures really bad, they have a look at
So we'll go on to the next last, oh, yes.
Yeah, it's, we're really lucky actually. As well.
Yeah.
That's where I
I've been to Nomotu 3 times, and I went once, and there was no waves. It's miserable. Came back 6 times every year.
Did you think about going?
I did, yeah. I'm glad I didn't go. It's such a.
These are keeping.
I'm gonna hold on to these ones.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks.
You're gonna take.
No, you can take it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I guess they said that the photos deceive the fact that I'll take off 4 ships like 200 feet every week.
You can go on. next door to me. I did amend that just by saying that it was the building design. Okay.
But
64, I'm sorry?
the one for 181 just came in.
Okay. Hang in there. So we do have a representative now for 181. Which is
Here.
this one here. Okay, great. Thank you. Peter.
Yeah. I didn't spend much time with the last one.
Peter, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be.
Let's move Okay.
Yeah.
Is he there or not?
He's here. Oh, there he is.
Peter, can you hear us?
It was closer and easier.
Okay.
Peter, you need to put on your volume.
Out here somewhere, there's peak foliage.
Yeah.
Is it coming in?
I don't know.
So he doesn't even have a microphone.
I think he's walking in the front door. Maybe?
No.
No, it's not.
What's going on? Hi, Peter.
We're still 3:30, we can spend the night here again.
Can you hear us?
Hi.
There we go. Okay. We're not hearing
But
you
he's
yet.
connecting to audio. I did not connect to audio.
Okay.
I believe.
Why don't we go on to the next application and see if you.
Peter, can you hear us? Take that as a no. We're not able to hear him.
Why don't we move forward, starting on that. So, we have two applications before us, a demo and then new construction.
Tell Peter moving on. His volume just came on.
John, I thought his volume just came back on.
Do we have a microphone? Can you hear him?
Peter, can you speak so we know we're connected?
Yes.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry. The board didn't have any major concerns with this. I don't believe. We do want to clarify that the trim painting color will duplicate what is existing.
Yes.
The renderings all show it to be a fairly bright white. And so we just wanted to clarify that. So for the record, it would duplicate the kind of off green, which is existing.
Yes.
Did you have any comments about the?
I do.
Okay.
Peter, what is your last name?
Fritcher, FRITSCHER.
Thank you.
So I have a bit of an issue with this design of the garage. I feel like it doesn't echo the character of the main home. This is one of my all-time favorite homes in Sagaponic, and it feels like it just doesn't, I know it's matching, but it does really feels like a totally separate.
Is it the style or shape of the
slope of the
dormers,
roof,
or-
it's the shape of the windows, it's the mass of the white,
Okay.
it's the connector. The whole home feels kind of sunken in and really has so much character and integrity, and I feel like the garage is really lacking and feels very basic compared to the main home. So I was hoping to maybe, I don't know if you could work with the original architect or at least kind of try to, I know there are some details that you're trying to match, but it just really doesn't feel like it's working for me personally.
One reference is the scale of the dormers. Seems to be a little excessive to compare to the similar features on the house.
Can you hear us?
Are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Okay. I realize the trim functions and so forth appear to be in similar detail, but maybe the scale of the dormers is a little heavy. Is there a intended use for the upstairs of the garage?
No, there's no second floor on there. I think we were just trying to make room for the car lift.
Oh, there are lifts in the garage?
Yes.
Should be a section, John.
I'm sorry?
Is there, there used to be a section?
Is the interior laid out in the submission?
Yes.
Okay, so we have like that. Proposed garage. I don't see anything.
I don't see a
But-
section. No, there's no section.
There's the 4 corner posts for the lifts.
So in drawing 04, if you look to the left and right of the cars,
Oh, yes.
there's the
Yeah.
lift.
Okay. So the intention would be perhaps to store 4 vehicles in the garage?
Or just to keep the floor open and the cars up.
I see.
If something that lift also go down, maybe
Yes.
they put.
Not to a basement, no, just up in the air.
But you could lower the grade of
Yeah.
the garage rather than raise it with the trench drain before. I think Megan, your comment is all about scale. The existing house is modest yet interesting and quirky, as you're saying. And the proposed doesn't have those qualities. So even the height of, if you look at it,
You might need to speak a little louder.
yeah, it's just out of scale. It's out of scale to the garage.
I mean, if the dormers were 25% smaller and the main roof of the garage was superior to the dormers.
Or maybe even if the dormers were sheds rather than doghouse dormers, they would.
You do one big shed or is that?
Or even 2, if there were 2, they would be lower to the facade.
That might, at least then it's an accessory structure, so it's not under the same scrutiny as being part of the place.
But also look at the height of the trellis compared to the height of the existing, but this may be out of scale too.
Yeah, but this is sort of low slung, like
Right.
Megan commented on, it really feels nestled in there and like this is where the sprawl, like a shingle style works.
Right.
There's one from the right end of the house and one from the left, and it would be the one from the left with the 2 vehicles. So this is the end of the house as it appeared Saturday. Just to get a sense of.
You know what I'm not seeing is I'm not seeing the proposed elevation with the existing elevation. You notice like the elevations which are in drawing 5, they're not showing any details or connections in height or scale or anything to the existing.
Yeah.
So how would we be able to judge that?
Okay. Yeah. Well, they have this. But
That's what I'm saying, like, how everything is aligning or not aligning.
house is disappearing on the left side, it's like it's not even there. And then it's like, boom, it goes back into again.
I think we need more comprehensive drawings.
Okay.
Oh, here's the section, drawing 7.
Also, I'm wondering, and I've seen this done before, they're playing on the property, they played with berms and you drive down in, the house kind of sinks into the grass a little bit. Is there any way to sort of sink the garage and have it, I might be proposing something that isn't really the code or whatever, but can you drive down into it instead of making the elevation so high?
Also.
Can it be sunk down a couple of feet into the
It's
ground,
also-
kind of
Yeah.
make it more diminutive?
But do you see they're trying to put all this bikes and things, you know? You have to drive back.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I did mine is.
And then look forward.
Peter, the board's asking questions of you. Are you able to hear the board?
I'm barely hearing it. I'm sorry.
So let's just reschedule. Let's just move on. It's not. The meeting minutes will read our intent.
Pardon me?
I think we should just reschedule.
Okay.
Okay, so just to review, Peter, I think where we are at with the submission is if you can, for example, on page 5, was it? On page 5 with your elevations, if you can extend some of those to include the edge of the residence so that we have a sense of scale and perspective to that, that would be helpful. If you can downsize the back to the term mass of the 2 dormers.
If you could find a way that would serve him or his client with these bikes, if he maybe put the dormers on the other side,
On the back.
on the back,
Yeah.
then no one has to.
That would help.
It's just, it's very kind of
Functional
pronounced.
form.
And Megan's other comment was, can it sit a little bit lower so that it matches the perspective and tone of the residents in approach?
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
It
thank
kind
you.
of a little bold in tone. Is there anything else that would help to explain?
That's a lot of things.
Okay. All right, we will make a list and the office will be in touch with you just to outline those thoughts, okay?
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Motion to adjourn now, Steve?
Wait.
Is there a second? All those in favor to adjourn? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you. No.
All right, Lon.
Very patient.
Do we have other folks? Are there other folks?
No, just Chris and Lisa.
Okay. I used to mow the lawn at this house back when I was in junior high school. Long time ago, in the early 70s. A couple things.
We don't do demolition first.
Yes, we should go through demo first. Sorry. I believe it was built in 65, is that right?
I don't know exactly, but probably, I was going to say 70, so.
Is there a demo
I
file?
wouldn't be surprised. if
Is
it
there a
was
demo file?
65.
There is.
Yeah, okay.
Put that one back, that's what he's looking for.
So this is the existing after a renovation in the 80s, I think. It was, Mr. Flynn had a very modest little weekend getaway. Hmm?
Nothing, it didn't wheel.
Oh, didn't we all? No, it's all right. So the landscaping is highly overgrown at this point. It's kind of a miracle you can see this much from the site. But this kind of took off pretty obviously pre-village, and it sort of is what it is. And Southampton.
No famous architect.
I don't think so.
That would be the only thing.
I was gonna say more 70s because of the style, that style that is not modern, it's not traditional, it's like hybrid that it's hard to
Windows keep.
understand. Exactly, yeah, exactly.
I was researching it online, and it was, your client bought it last year? Or
Yes,
May?
yes.
Last May. 65 for Bernard Flynn, yeah. Builder was Bill Darby of Southampton.
Yeah, I'm fine with it being torn down.
Okay, well, anyway, is there a motion for the demo?
So moved.
So moved. Okay. All set. Okay, all those in favor? All right. Okay, that was easy. Now, a couple thoughts on this. You're aware of we've spoken a little bit today already about the historic district. And this actually borders a fair amount of historic districts for the village in the sense of farmland. And when I studied the satellite map, I can count over a dozen houses that would see the light emission from the proposed plan. And I'm just, again, I'm coming back to looking at the code and seeing the charge that we have of maintaining what we have as we continue to go through year by year and lose much of the tradition and much of the character of the village. I found that the amount of glass on the proposed structure was a fairly large amount. That said, I also understand that San June Court has been kind of allowed to stray outside of normal normal common sense, more so than perhaps any other location in Sacramento. There's just been whims that have flown there for 30, 40 years. So I'm looking at this, it's a neat design, but I'm just worried about the amount of light that.
I would just jump to that.
Huh?
Let's just jump to that then.
I do
Is
notice.
it the east, is there a particular direction?
The east is seen all the way over to Gibson, yeah.
So that's the first of the glass things. Second floor is 57%.
67 or 57? Okay, so we're looking at page.
Okay.
We are on page 11. Okay. Yeah.
That's the east, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we have it up on the screen there. East elevation, and the upper floor is 57. And the lower floor is, second floor is 57%, lower floor is 57%.
Where does it say that?
In the AHRB presentation, in the last 6
It's
pages.
further back, that is where the light analysis is. find it?
Towards the very back.
Yeah, I got sidetracked by something else.
And this is FEMA compliant, so you're elevating.
Absolutely, yes. This is not only, yeah, and this is a VE zone. This, even though this house is a block away from the ocean, the zone is VE, as if it was on the ocean. So our lot elevation is, our base flood elevation is 17 feet. That's, we have to go from there about.
I understand. The 38 hurricane, the waves were at the north end where the flagpole is of the cemetery.
I'm drowning.
Yes. That's where the waves were in 38. So, and you've lost 10 feet of beach every decade. So usually a foot a year. So the ocean front was that much further out. But, yeah.
10
Very
feet
cool house.
every
I love the
decade?
house.
Whoa,
A foot a
lot of
year,
fun.
that's really good. It averages out to that. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So other observations?
I think the planting on top of the loggia could be somewhat effective in hiding some of the light.
Yeah. Our architecture, even though we're modern architects, what we like the most is to make our architecture as less noticeable as possible. Unfortunately, most of the clients want bigger and higher, and the scale is a problem. It's a real problem in terms of the sites, but there's nothing we can do about that. But the rest of the house, if you will see, it's like most of the things that we do. It's about the horizontal lines. It's about trying to get a lot of shade in order to make the house be less noticeable and try to disappear. And planting around it to make the house that is in reality a 3-story house, because the first floor has to be so high that the intention is to bring that as low as we can. There's a detail there around the house. I don't know if we can see, but there's a rendering. We have to be above level 17, but there's like a step here that allows us to plant all around this edge, and somehow
Like sitting on the ground.
exactly, instead of having like a house on stilts, it's like
Totally good.
trying to bring in some way
Bring the landscape up. Yes.
at the beginning, and because we didn't know, we were working with berms, and then we realized, oh, this is not allowed, but because that would have been the ideal thing, to bring berms and to make like a house on top of a hill. But that is obviously not possible because of the regulations. So we try to fix that with landscape. And this is going to be a big project for a landscaper.
Is your ceiling height limited based on how hard, where you start?
Yes, we can go more than, I think, 9 and 8.5 or something like that. Yeah, because the maximum level is 40 feet.
Right.
And our floor, the floor of the first of the lower level is gonna be 19, so we're pretty tight there.
That's so interesting.
But you know what? I am in particular not in favor of high ceilings. I think that with 8.5 particularly, I think that's enough. And that's obviously not what most of our clients want. They want the higher, the better. And that's not good for the site, you know? The smaller the building, the better for the site. So I'm happy that I have that restriction. It works. In my favor.
Okay.
So,
So I think you're, as always, Nacho, I think your architecture is beautiful and crafted and well scaled. The 50% on the second floor particularly is well beyond our norm. And we've seen, what's that?
it's basically the third floor.
Yeah, it's basically the third floor. And in the past, you've shown quite a bit of rain screen elements
We
to
can work on that. Yeah,
to
definitely.
lessen that.
Yeah.
So to me, those are the only comments, is that you're forced to bring your houses taller and your windows are going right to the ceiling of the eave. So it's a lot of light, and as Tom said, it's 12 to 13 houses that are going to see this, and we're trying to prevent what happened on Parsonage.
I totally agree, and we can make that exercise and come back with, like what I did with Marilyn and Jaime, you know, try to minimize that and say, this is the, you know, further I can go, because I totally understand that.
And then the last piece would be that we probably want to see a landscape plan with actual planting specified.
Okay.
So that we can, in the past, for example, another one around Bridge Lane, the initial proposal was like this, beautifully rendered, but then the actual planting plan was,
yeah,
they went to Home Depot rather than.
No. On the other house that I'm finishing here on Hedges Lane, I brought Raymond Jungles, as you know, it's one of the, you know, most famous landscape, because I think that, you know, it's fabulous for the house. I'm working with him in the Bahamas, in South America. He's a very, very talented. I don't know if this client in particular will be willing to spend the money in a famous, but not because he's famous, it's because he's talented. But definitely, yes, I think that's absolutely, yeah, I agree.
Why is these dark?
Absolutely, yeah.
On this rendering of the east elevation, some of these windows are darker than these, what does that mean?
Oh,
Does that mean something?
some of them have wood slots, like.
Okay, what does it show?
Let me see this, I can't see.
So that affects the amount of light.
Those are little readers. That should help magnify.
Yeah, that's gonna.
We're having trouble hearing guys.
No, parts are wood.
Right,
The
but
dark
this-
parts are
this-
wood.
what is
That
that?
is glass. The darker, that is glass.
All glass, and that's
This is
all glass.
Glass, yeah. What?
But I'm questioning why this
Oh,
glass is
because
darker than this
there's
glass.
there's a shadow.
Oh,
That's, if there's a big overhead,
Got
the
it.
shadow makes it
I
even
understand.
darker.
That helps with the light emission.
Yeah.
But
And also, this house has a lot of overhangs that brings the real square footage or usable square footage of the house down, because the other are those overhangs are open spaces and not enclosed.
I love the house.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I think we're good.
I totally understand the concern about the lights and concern about how with architecture we destroy the environment. And I was in Napa Valley with two very famous architects with his partners. One was Zaha Hadid, and the other one was Tadao Ando. And we were walking this fabulous property in Napa Valley in the mountains. And I looked at them and I say, guys, as architects, our mission here is to mitigate the damage. And they looked at me like, you are, what is your problem? One of them was proposing 7 stories on top of a mountain, 7 stories. I said,
Why? How many bedrooms? Why 7 stories?
No, this was a huge development. It was hotels and things, but you know, it's like, I totally understand them. If I was on that side, I would probably be more strict than you, so I totally understand you.
So if we could get some actual measurements on certain areas, that would be helpful.
I think he's asking for a section with dimensional heights from the ground up to.
Okay,
Heights,
good.
yeah, like how high.
We're missing that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's missing a section of the house.
Yeah, like just to, so we have an idea what height these windows are.
There are no plans included here? Real plans?
There's some plans, but I don't see
Any sections?
in the elevations.
I'm sorry, that's.
There are floor plans, but I don't see any.
Yeah, I can actually tell you that I have a section that, but I'll provide you a detailed section and a proposal to.
Okay, thank you. All right, so is there anything else in particular that you folks would want for the next?
Just the materiality, maybe some samples or whatever.
Okay. Is there any? If I is there any wood? This is wood. The center of the house is probably cedar, unless there's some, you know, any other, you know, cedar is the wood that most of the houses have here. So if that's okay, I would propose the plans to this and see.
Yeah, if we're probably talking some light emission glass and all of that type of stuff, as well as maybe shortening some of those, the height of the glass panels. As well, it's just a lot of light.
Beautiful. I'll work on that, and we'll make a big effort to. I'm always thinking of, it would be nice to be able to develop some device that with the light, as the light of the sun goes down, automatically, you know, in order to have that connection with nature during the day, but at night to avoid the problem of light pollution. That would be something interesting to develop or think about.
Okay. Moving slats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something.
Yeah, but then that relies on the person to move.
Yes.
Exactly.
No, it's also
That's the other problem.
automatically controlled by a computer with eyes that look at the sun.
By someone controls.
We don't control it. The owner does.
Okay, so let's take this for adjournment, and we'll see what we get at the next visit. We do need a committee of 2 for December.
Wait, adjourn this first.
Yes, okay. Motion to adjourn?
So pushy that.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful
Thank you.
house.
Committee of 2 for December? All right, we'll go with you. I'm sorry.
It's only two
This is-
full-time residents of the.
Yeah, I know, that's all right.
Thank you.
Now,
Bye.
normally-
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good
You
day.
might want to wait a minute because they're going to talk about the December meeting and what
Okay.
date.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So this might be your deadline.
So the day after Christmas would normally be our meeting date. The week before is the first day of Hanukkah on a Monday. What works for the village?
That means said the 19th.
Did we decide on something?
Well, you discussed it.
I
but now
wrote it
it's-
down on the 19th.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Is that agreeable?
I'm away.
So December 19th will be the next meeting.
I'm traveling on that day, but I have to find out, maybe I travel at night, if my flight is at night. and-
Or you could do Zoom. Does it have to be one day?
Well,
Yeah,
that was
depending-
another option.
Then he'd be
I'm going
sorry,
to Rome, so
27th.
I don't know if I'm gonna, depending the time, but,
I'm not available.
but I can send somebody.
27th?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're not settled on the date yet, because,
The 27th?
yeah,
That's
it's
what I'm suggesting is
I can do it by Zoom.
27th.
27th.
That's the normal date is the 27th. So we're good with that?
No, that's
No.
a Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday.
Right, because Christmas falls on the Monday, the normal day. If
You get
everybody's
Christmas Day
available-
off is the 26th.
Correct, the
Sunday
office is
Christmas.
closed that day.
Okay, so could it be Tuesday or is that?
Yes.
on
Tuesday,
Christmas?
the 27th?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that what?
I can do it by Zoom.
Okay,
So we-
But Nick can't vote via Zoom.
right, I understand.
I'll be Zoom too, if it's the
Yeah.
27th, I'll be in California, sure.
Okay.
That's, hi, this is Lisa. That's why I was suggesting to kind of squeeze it in before, because usually that week after Christmas, a lot of people are away.
Travel.
Okay,
I might be able to do it via Zoom the week before, again, Zoom
on
on the 20th.
the 20th as opposed to the
19th.
19th. It doesn't really matter to me from what I can see. Let's go with the 19th.
Or
I think
the
it's
second
safer.
meeting.
Is that all right?
It's safer.
Okay,
I thought my next day away on the 19th.
he's, yeah, but he can
That's
zoom in and give input, he can't vote.
Are you talking the 21st?
No,
Or the
now we're
20th?
talking about the 19th again.
Okay,
But you can't vote on Zoom.
I'm flying out that day, but maybe, I don't know, I'll find out what time.
On Zoom,
That's ridiculous.
not my rule.
I understand.
All right, so let's go with the 19th.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, December 19th.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Okay. Motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor of adjourning? Those opposed to adjourning?
Wait, did you need to speak to Chris?
I'm gonna, do you want me to stop recording?
Yeah. that's fine.
Did you